4 divisions, 4 hosts, all battling it out for the Holy GrAHL of the American Hockey League, the Calder Cup. This is the Holy GrAHL Podcast with Andrew Rinaldi, Deana Weinheimer, Jeremy Paul, Michael Liu, and Zach Powell.
Well, hello and welcome to episode number 30 of Field Pass Hockey's AHL podcast, the Holy GrAHL. And as you can see, if you're watching us on YouTube, or if you're not, you'll soon find out we're just a bit shorthanded. We're on that penalty kill once again, but we still have a lot of great AHL playoff coverage. Here in a little bit, we will be bringing our Hershey Bears expert, Corey Swartz, back onto the show to talk about their locker cleanout date on Wednesday and to help us preview some Atlantic Division playoff matchups. But as usual, before you get too far into this, we're just going to do a quick little introduction, and I'm going to have my wonderful co-host Andrew kick that off.
Yeah, getting into the shooting lanes and getting pucks deep is your penalty killer, Andrew Rinaldi. I cover the beat for the Chicago Wolves, and when they're in season, the Grand Rapids Griffins. But this time of year, they're not so active. But, you know, we finally got the postseason really, truly, fully underway. The Wolves get their start technically tonight, as we are going to be releasing on Thursday. So I'm excited. I've never covered a Wolves playoff game before, so I'm buzzing with adrenaline all week, and I'm ready to roll.
And I am your AHL editor and Cleveland Monsters correspondent, Deana Weinheimer. Unfortunately, I'm kind of the same. I've never been able to cover a playoff game before for my beats. I've been luckily able to do it for others now that we're in the playoffs, but maybe next year, Cleveland.
There's always
fingers crossed. Maybe there's always next year. Well, we are without Zach, Jeremy, and Michael. Unfortunately, sometimes personal lives do get in the way, but Andrew and I, again, we have you covered. We're going to move right into some more end of regular season AHL awards, but we wanted to just give a quick shout out and just add a little bit of more coverage to the fact that Henderson Silver Knights head coach Manny Viverios, for their final game of their postseason against the Colorado Eagles, after spending so much time away from the team, wasn't behind the bench because of treatment for cancer. He was able to come back onto the bench, coach a game, and that was just a fantastic story. It really was. It was amazing to see the team try to rally around him.
What a warrior this guy is. I mean, been battling all year, and to come in in the playoffs to try and rally his team, and they battled. I mean, Henderson was kind of behind the 8 ball when you compare the rosters on paper, but this was a team that really didn't give up until that final buzzer, and you got to give the credit to Coach Viverios for really inspiring the fight in his boys. Sometimes the result doesn't go your way, but I mean, unbelievable to see this happen, and all of our love and support goes for Coach Viverios as he continues his battles, and it's right. It's wonderful to see this guy. I mean, right. You kind of wish the result was a little better. We don't always get those storybook endings. It's nice when they do happen, but
yeah.
It is what it is. At any rate, it's we love to see it, and I hope he comes back with a fire and a hunger next year, because I'm really rooting for this guy.
Absolutely. I mean, unfortunately, the Silver Knights didn't get a whole lot of help from the Golden Knights in terms of reinforcements for the playoffs, but I think that team did quite well despite what they had. But again, Coach Viverios, I was so excited to see that. Hopefully, the summer he can spend continuing to get better, and hopefully come back next season ready to rock and roll. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the regular season awards. We went through a whole slew of them last week. Well, within the past week, more have been announced. So first up is going to be, and this is quite frankly, no surprise for those of us who have been watching any part of this man's career, but forward TJ Tynan of the Ontario Reign has been voted the winner of the Les Cunningham Award as the AHL's most valuable player for this season. Now, this is an award that's voted on by coaches, players, and media members in each of the league's 31 cities. Now, get this. He is only the 5th player in AHL history to win this MVP award back-to-back, and only the 7th to win it at least twice in his career. Now, this season, TJ recorded 98 points in 62 games for the Reign, an average of 1.58 points per game. That's the highest for any skater over a full season in the last 15 years. Wow. I mean, 84 assists, tied for the 3rd most in a season in league history. And of course, no surprise, this production included 32 multi-point games compared to just 11 games with only 0 points. And of course, 13-game assist streak from March 22nd to April 22nd, the longest in the league since 2012. You know, Tynan factored in on the scoring of 49 power plays for the Reign, totaling 3 goals and 46 assists. Talk about a team player and a maestro there, teeing all those up. But what really got me here was 12 AHL teams, 12 full teams, did not score that many power play goals all season. Of course, the Reign setting an AHL record for efficiency at 27.5% as part of their league-leading offense this past season. So, TJ Tynan, your league MVP.
And when you have your first 100-point scorer in over a decade and he doesn't get your MVP award, you got to be doing something really special. And if anyone was paying attention to that description of his accolades this season, historic season, really special. I mean, this guy's just been on an absolute tear since really going back to last season when he was also the MVP. So we can't even be surprised at this point anymore from what he's put it in. And congratulations to TJ. And, you know, at this point, I'm sure he loves it, but I think he's got some bigger goals that he's still got set for himself coming up here a little bit. And then moving on to defense, we're going to stay in the Pacific Division because Jordan Gross of the Colorado Eagles is the winner of the Eddie Shore Award as the AHL's outstanding defenseman for the 21-22 season. And kind of like the MVP award, this award was voted on by coaches, players, and members of the media in each of the league's 31 cities. Gross, I mean, it's a bad pun, but he had a really gross season, leading all the defensemen in the AHL with 65 points in 61 regular season games with Colorado. I mean, from the blue line. His 55 assists were tied for the most by an AHL blue liner in the last 22 years. And he also tallied 29 points on the power play and recorded 190 shots on goal, both league highs for defensemen, while accumulating a plus-minus rating of +20. He's getting it done at both ends of the ice. Gross was voted a first-team All-Star this year as well, and, I mean, just really driving that Eagles offense from the back end. I mean, I know we talk a lot about Kiefer Sherwood, Dylan Sakura, Mikhail Maltsev, a lot of talent up front there for the Eagles, but if you're not getting the puck out of your zone, it's kind of all for naught, isn't it? But Gross is getting it done, big part of that team, and, again, hungry for more in that Pacific Division. That's going to be brutal coming up. I can't wait for it.
Now, Jordan Gross is kind of like the personification of needing new scenery. We hear about that all the time in hockey, like, well, maybe a change of scenery will do this player well. This is a shining, perfect diamond of an example. Now, he played with the Tucson Roadrunners for 3 years between 2017, and 2020. Listen to these quick point stats here just to give you an idea of how big this is for him. So his first season, he played one game coming straight out of college. 1 game, 2 points. Okay, next season, 61 games, 25 points. Season after that, 56 games, 27 points. He was over a point per game as a right shooting defenseman. It doesn't matter which way he shoots, but as a defenseman, come on.
Absurd.
Yeah, gross. Gross.
Gross. That's the only way we can describe this, man.
That's gross. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on. And you'd think when we're talking postseason awards that we're going to be talking about the Chicago Wolves, right? We talked about them last week getting honored with multiple awards. But this week, it's the Stockton Heat. Now, first, well, I guess we do have to mention a Wolf. Dustin Wolf of the Stockton Heat is actually the winner of the Aldridge Bastian Memorial Award as the league's outstanding goaltender for the 2021-22 season. Now, like everything else, voted on by the coaches, the players, and media members. Now, he was also named to the AHL All-Rookie team and the AHL First All-Star team last week. Wolf finished his first pro season with a record of 33-9-4, ranking among the league leaders in wins, where he was first. He was second in minutes played with 2,809, also second in saves with 1,341, fourth in save percentage at a .924, and eighth in goals against average at a 2.35. Now, he did not suffer a regulation loss until January 4th. Come on. 15-0-2 in his first 17 decisions, allowing 2 goals or fewer in 32 of his 47 appearances over the course of the season. Now, of course, helping the Heat to their first Pacific Division title and the second best record in the entire AHL. I wonder who got the best one. Chicago. I had to work it in there somehow. You know we always have to talk about the Wolves here, but Stockton also finishing third in the league, allowing 2.72 goals per game, despite the fact that they were 14th in shots allowed at 30.1 per game, and also had the highest penalty killing efficiency in the AHL at 86.6%. So what an amazing rookie season for Dustin Wolf. Many congratulations to him. And I'm sure Calgary is going to be taking a very close look at him here in the offseason and in training camp.
Holy GrAHL jinx plug. He went 15-0-2. We made a nice little remark about, he hasn't lost in regulation yet. He lost in regulation the next game. So that's just goes to show we have some holy powers here on this podcast. And for better or worse, they are real. So the last award that we have to present for you guys this week, we have Mitch Love of the Heat, who's going to be the winner of the Louis A.R. Pieri Memorial Award. Are you wondering what that's for? I'll tell you. It's for the AHL's outstanding coach for the 21-22 season. And you know the drill, voted on by coaches, members of the media, and all 31 member cities. In his first season as a head coach in the American Hockey League, Love guided Stockton to the best record ever by a Calgary Flames affiliate. That is 45-16-5-2. That's a 713 point percentage, which, as we alluded to, good for number 2 in the league. The Heat were unbeaten in regulation over their first 12 games, 10-0-2, and they've never looked back from that point, as we talked about capturing the Pacific Division title and second in the league. First overall in penalty killing at 86%. Also ranked third in the AHL in both goals for and goals allowed per game. That's 356 and 272, respectively. They're joining the Norfolk Admirals from the 11-12 season and Toronto from the 17-18 season as the only teams to finish among the top 3 in both categories in the same season over the last decade. I mean, you know, the resume speaks for itself on this guy, and we've talked about Stockton all season long on this podcast from day one. And this team's never really faltered. I mean, you can make an argument at the end, kind of stumbling a bit along Chicago to grab that number 1 seed, but it's been just dominance from top to bottom on this roster. And yeah, obviously you got to give Dustin Wolf some love for the impeccable work he's doing in net, but a lot of love, no pun intended, for Mitch Love here to kind of really to gather this team to not just, I mean, thrive in a division that's so tough, that's so demanding, game in, game out, unless you're playing San Jose and Tucson. But other than that, finding a way to dominate in such a fashion is really, truly impressive. I mean, well-deserved for Mitch Love.
So we are going to bring our guest, Corey Swartz, here just to talk about the Hershey Bears, who had their end-of-year availability locker room clean out today, and he was able to attend that. So who all did you actually get a chance to talk to today?
So it was awesome. We got to speak with Scott Allen, the head coach. Dylan McIlrath was there, as well as Captain Matt Moulson. So it was a good crew of people. You could see they were, they're cleaning out their lockers and stuff like that, and saying their goodbyes and stuff. So it was nice to be there for it. It was a little bittersweet though at the same time. So a lot of interesting nuggets though. I mean, Scott Allen alluded to with their struggles, probably going to be seeing some changes come in here for sure. And some of that's inevitable. It was also not an interesting look. It didn't look like, Matt Moulson, the captain, may be back next season. It was kind of up in the air, but left a little bit, he didn't rule it out, but he left a little, thinking, and obviously coming off of back surgery, it's to be expected there as well. So, it seems like it may be rife for some change next season, and, a lot of familiar faces may be gone. So it was a little bittersweet to be around for sure.
So, I mean, it's obviously not the kind of result you wanted there in the first round. I mean, that's pretty painfully obvious, but talking about some of those changes, I mean, you kind of seen the Bears in that second half of the season kind of not really, I want to say pulling their weight, but really kind of tumbling down the standings, falling into this position where they have to find themselves in this play-in round and not coming in out of there. What do you think's really kind of, what areas do you think they really need to address to kind of, I wouldn't say right the ship, but kind of get back into that top half of the division going into next year?
Well, to be honest with you, a lot of it was out of their control. Recalls and injuries slaughtered the Bears here. And it was a theme almost from the beginning of the season up until even the playoff series. They got Joe Snively back for one game, literally one, and then lost him again to injury, along with Cody Clark. And, during that game, Brett Leeson was recalled for a brief stint to Washington. So, they just never gotten, Scott Allen said it today too, is that, they never really got their ideal lineup at any point during the playoffs and most of the regular season as well, which was, very unfortunate. So a lot of the, it's something you really don't see a lot in the Washington organization is health issues either. And, you lose guys to recall. I mean, the Bears have been fortunate to basically be untouched for, most of the last half to, maybe even a decade at this point. So, some of it was maybe a little bit more depth related. I think that they are going to need to target some more scorers during the season, just because, as you alluded to, the offense ran dry. I mean, they're plain and simple. They were one of the bottom goals for team in the Atlantic Division for good reason. It was a little fragile on confidence there, I think, at times too. And, unfortunately, a lot of weight fell on some scores that, it just didn't work out at times there too. It was some guys hadn't played in a while. They had 0 players that played the entire 76 game schedule either. So, you add up the weight of the season, I think you just need to hit the reset button. They have a good core there of players, and, they're surely going to target some guys in free agency that I think will really help to, alleviate those offensive issues too.
So you said you got to talk to Dylan McIlrath. What did he have to say about how the season went and just kind of his thoughts leading into this offseason?
Well, he did say he really liked it in Hershey, and, obviously he's under contract for next season, so he will be back. And, I think that's a fantastic piece to have. I think he was one of their best players this season, honestly, both for him personally and for the team, honestly. He was great. But, he's expressed some disappointment that, he said he would, go to battle with these guys any day of the week. And, that it's disappointing that, this next season's not going to be the same group in a lot of ways because, he was very fond of that group and, they all loved each other. And, they, when they come back next season, it's not going to be that same group of guys. And, he did say, to answer one of my questions, that, the team really rallied around Phoenix Copley, especially in that third game there, that, they struggled to score goals from all that season, and they really wanted to deliver him those goals to get it to overtime. Unfortunately, we know the result, of course, but to rally for him was, I think, a big thing there too.
Yeah, I know Griffin's fans definitely miss Dylan McIlrath's presence on the blue line, and especially on the penalty kill, and that bottom 5 PK really did the Griffins no favors this year. So at least he was able to experience some postseason hockey, but you kind of alluded to, Matt Moulson coming off his injuries and kind of leaving it ambiguous, I'd say. But I don't know. I guess what is your gut telling you? I mean, you come off a back surgery like that, and the guy with so much mileage on his skates already. Is there any kind of hint on what his future outlook is?
Based on his comments, I mean, they didn't really rule it out entirely, but based on his comments, I mean, that's just the direction you'd be leaning in, is that he probably, it was like you said, and the amount of everything, age, a lot of factors are coming into play here, and that he's probably, it just leaned that way. Obviously, we won't know anything for certain until, something formal is made, which was not today, of course. But, just the way it was said was that, I mean, Scott Allen alluded to injuries, and he mentioned at one point career-ending injuries possibly, and I think that's really the main one that fits that bill there. And the way he said it, the way he alluded to it was that back surgery, and it'll be in the quote in the article, it's going up here too, is that the back surgery helped make a decision for him. He didn't say what that decision was necessarily, but that's kind of where you're leaning towards after anything of that magnitude, honestly.
I didn't really give you a proper introduction as we kicked off with this. But for those of you who may be new or not recognizing his voice, you are listening to Corey Swartz joining us again. He's with us here at Field Pass Hockey and also over at the HBH Nation blog, right?
Yeah, Bears Hockey Nation. Either way is fine.
There we go. So he covers the Hershey Bears for us here at Field Pass Hockey, and we wanted to bring him on to discuss, a little bit of that availability, and also we're going to have him along here as we look into the playoffs that were, playoffs that are, and playoffs that will be coming up, at least in the Atlantic Division. So first, we're going to go a little bit out of your territory, I guess, and we're going to talk about that number 1 seed Charlotte Checkers finally getting some playoff action against number 6 upstart Bridgeport Islanders, who actually got into the playoffs by the way of a sweep of the Providence Bruins.
Yeah, it's probably the most interesting matchup of the bracket. I mean, Bridgeport comes out of nowhere to upset a really good Providence team here for sure. Providence team that I thought was, built to, possibly contend to make the conference finals. The way they seem to play, at least every time I saw them play Hershey, they seem to, look that strong there too, for sure. And, Bridgeport is really an upstart team. They've been kind of going up and down towards the end of the regular season there. There's a lot of questions on if they'd make it, and they ultimately out-battled the Hartford Wolfpack to, continue their slumping ways and, allow Bridgeport the chance to make it, and they get the upset. And so anything's possible at this point. I think Bridgeport is a sneaky good team. I mean, any team with Chris Terry and his incredible scoring ability is a team to be feared. But Charlotte, I think, is, they're looking like their 2018-19 selves, which is impressive considering they've gone through a full affiliation change in that time, that, they've been able to not only recapture that spirit they had back then with, a mostly rotating cast, but, put on such a powerful second half of the season to, really look like those old school Charlotte Checkers groups there for sure. The dual affiliations paid off for them in spades.
Name dropping another former Griffin, Chris Terry, enjoying himself some postseason hockey. Sorry to rub some salt in our listeners from Grand Rapids here. But when I look at this one, and part of what makes it really intriguing is that you have two teams that have gotten to this point with two wholly different play styles, and they play to their strengths and they do it really well. I mean, you see Charlotte, that's kind of a bit more high flying, and Bridgeport, that's just kind of they're gonna grind their way to a 2-1 1-0 win every night, it seems. So for each one of these clubs, I mean, what do you really think, like, to key in and get the advantage here? What do you think are the keys of the series for both teams?
Well, I think for both, it's just, you can sum up that their key points are to play their game. And that's for, Bridgeport to really limit, like you said, the high-flying, offensively potent Charlotte Checkers. Obviously, a, tall task for any team. But also, find ways to beat their goaltending, which has been very strong, all season long, no matter who's been in the pipes there. I know, there's been a few times where they've rotated goalies based on the Seattle and Florida situations there too. And, at times they had as many as three, pretty quality goaltenders up there, in my opinion. Anybody that could be a force to be reckoned with and play well in a given game there too. So, for Charlotte, I think, they want to keep doing what they've been doing, which is, score a lot of goals and, really run their opposition out of the building. Whereas Bridgeport, like you said, is a more measured approach. Again, another cases we're going to talk about with Springfield and Wilkes-Barre of rested versus tested, I think has been the key word for how this play-in round has really been treating teams is, some teams are going to take that break and it's really going to help them. I think Charlotte is going to benefit from a break here for sure, versus a team like Bridgeport, which has already won some big battles, upset some teams. They're not going to be a team that rolls over by any stretch.
So I like to look for the little oddities and things. And one thing that I love about this regular season matchup between these teams is that Charlotte won all the odd number games. Bridgeport took all of the evens. So I'm looking to see if maybe that inconsistent consistency, I guess, carries into this season. But I think if there's any wild card in the postseason, it's going to be possibly in this division, because the last time that these two teams met was back in February. Now, about that time, Charlotte was 5th in the Atlantic. They didn't get hot until March. So Bridgeport hasn't seen this squad. And so, honestly, I have two players I'm looking at on each team. For Charlotte, it's their captain, Zach Dalby. He is, I believe, the 5th player in team history to get 30 goals in a season. And then, of course, you're going to be looking towards goaltending. Joey Decord, we're going to see what he has in postseason play. And then on the other side, we're going to go a forward and a goalie too. Of course, Corey Schneider was amazing in that opening series against Providence. And then Aatu Räty. I mean, he kind of had a little bit of a coming out party in that opening playoff round. Of course, he didn't really do well in, the very end in the regular season when he was coming in, but boy, did he factor in a lot. I mean, getting his first North American Pro assist and goal. The goal was the series decider in overtime. Then he tallied the assist back in game 1 with the secondary helper on the game winner in overtime. Talk about a clutch performance.
Gonna retweet everything Deana said. I think she keyed on all the players that I definitely had focused on. I mean, when it comes to Bridgeport, it starts and ends with Corey Schneider. But I mean, I love Aatu Räty, this young kid kind of coming in. He's got his pro experience overseas. He knows what it's like to play with the big dogs in big situations. I think he can really be an X factor for this Islanders team. But I also just I love me some Zach Dalby too. He's got the absolute best stat line of anyone this year. 30 goals, 9 assists. He would do great on Rockford because he's kind of a puck hog.
That is quintessential Zach Dalby, the Cleveland Monsters legend that we all know, love, and miss terribly here in Ohio. But so we're going to look at predictions next. Now, Charlotte already has a 1-0 advantage on this best of 5 Atlantic Division semifinals. The remaining games will be played in Bridgeport on Thursday, May 12th at 7 p.m. Then the final games will be held in Charlotte. So Saturday the 14th at 4, and then if necessary, Monday the 16th at 7, Wednesday the 18th at 7 as well. So guys, predictions.
Corey, you've seen more Atlantic hockey than I have. I guess you should kind of take the poll on this one.
I think that Charlotte's gonna find a way to overpower on this one. I like Bridgeport to at least take it the distance, though. I would say it's probably going to be a 4 or 5 gamer at least. Bridgeport's going to be able to steal a couple of games based on their goaltending. I mean, like you said, if you have any Corey Schneider, I mean, he gives you a fighting chance to win every single night, even against a team that's as offensively potent as Charlotte is. But Charlotte, again, it's very much shades of the teams of past years, where I think that it's going to be more than a match for it, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, Bridgeport kind of came out hot in game 1, going up 2-0 on Charlotte early. But I mean, this team, it's got the talent, but it's got the will too. And they came roaring back and was able to come out with a big 3-2 win on the road. I mean, even if they drop one in Bridgeport, they got 3 games going back home in that raucous Bojangles Coliseum. I will always name drop that. And it's tough for me to see Bridgeport taking 2 games on the road against, a team right. You're right. You can't stop them. You can only hope to slow them down. I got to take the Checkers, but I mean, yeah, leave it to the Islanders. Probably, I'd love to see this go 5 games. It'd be awesome.
I think Corey Schneider, if any goaltender has the ability to steal a couple games, it's going to be him, with all of that veteran experience, both in this league and in the NHL. I honestly think this one can go 4, but ultimately it's going to be the Checkers moving out into the next round. So let's go ahead. We're going to keep our eyes tuned to the Atlantic here. One more series, another semifinals with the 2nd-seeded Springfield Thunderbirds against the 4th-seeded Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins. So how did they get here? Well, we'll tell you real quick. Springfield getting a bye into this series just because they were that 2nd seed. So just like Charlotte, you do well in the regular season, you get a bit of a break. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? We don't know yet. But Corey, as much as I hate to do it to you, how would you like to explain how Wilkes-Barre Scranton got into the divisional semifinals?
Yeah, so Wilkes-Barre was able to get there courtesy of a Game 3 overtime win against the Hershey Bears. And after, the Bears impressively came back in the last 2 minutes down 3-1, scored 2 late goals, including, probably was one of my favorite calls of all time now from Zach Fish on the tying goal there. But Alex Nylander, he came in and, won it with a heck of a shot there. Credit the Penguins. I think they played really well and really didn't let those 2 goals rattle them, as they really controlled most of the overtime in that game. And, to their credit, all 3 games are very close, and they found a way to win all 3, 2 of the 3 at least there, but kept it rolling at home there, where they've been very strong here recently, I think. And, I give them a lot of credit because they also hung in there in the end of the regular season in order to secure home ice. Home team won each of the 3 games there for sure. And, that proved to be a difference, even though it was on a tiebreaker.
All right, next we're going to look, what is your key to this series?
Well, to me, I think it's for Springfield, it's, finding their game again. I mean, they've had a fantastic ending to the regular season, won 4 straight games. Charlie Lindgren posted back-to-back shutouts to conclude the season. I think I want to say he was 3rd overall in the AHL in terms of goals against, at least. could be wrong about that. I think that's about where it was. But, he's been the guy for a reason. So for them, I think they need to play solid goaltending in front, or, get solid goaltending, play well in front of him. Wilkes-Barre's been a team, though, that, they've been coming. And, I wrote an article back in January when they were in last place saying that, hey, these guys could come in and make some noise once they get healthy. Right couple of additions need to be made. And that's surely what happened. I mean, they, pushed up as far as fourth place, which, in years past would have been the last playoff berth, which is incredibly impressive considering where they were. And, really turned around their season just like that, especially with the Nylander acquisition that ended up being crucial for them. So, you can't sleep on them, even though, Springfield on paper looks to be a favorite. I think that Wilkes-Barre has a potential to upset them. And, for them, they're just going to have to, keep that nobody likes us, we don't care kind of attitude. And, that's how they'll push and make it for sure.
Now, I'm wondering if, for full disclosure, game 1 of the series is actually taking place as we are recording. It is Springfield up 1-0 with 17-18 remaining in the second. But basically, what I'm looking for in this series is, while Springfield does have some really solid veterans, I mean, you've got Tommy Cross, Luke Witkowski. These guys have been around the block and then some. I'm wondering if some of these younger upstarts off of the Pens, like your Alex Nylanders of the world, if that's not going to be enough, or will that be enough to overcome that? I mean, I know they've done well over the course of the regular season, but playoff hockey is a different thing.
I do think that Springfield is extremely fortunate through circumstances to have players like you just mentioned, as well as the real deal James Neal on their team right now. It's been a huge benefit for them. And it's honestly made losing players that have been having great seasons like Nathan Walker, my guy, to recall for a long time here. It's really managed to negate those losses there and, really minimize them here a bit. But, for Wilkes-Barre, it's really definitely, I think that Springfield has an envious matrix of veterans as well as some younger guys here, guys that have, definitely attracted the eye of the St. Louis Blues to test and, like Walker, like Dakota Joshua, to go even one step further by giving them some NHL time. So, I think they have an enviable mix. And, to an extent, I think that Wilkes-Barre does have some of that veteran balance, but it is definitely, more slanted towards youth rather than veteran experience. So like you said, it's going to be an interesting clash and really good test. I mean, but you got guys like, Samuel Poulin, Radim Zahorna, Felix Robert, those three guys have been thorns, they thrive on being thorns in the sides for their oppositions. And, the regular season series between those two teams was incredibly even. There was only one lopsided decision, and it was, back during the worst of COVID when the Thunderbirds were riddled with it, absolutely decimated. Maybe unlike any other team in the league was at the time. So, the fact that it was so close, and obviously there's been a lack of recent matchups, kind of like the Bridgeport series, to really hone in on in that sense. There was one in April where it ended up being a close 3-1 with an empty net decision for Springfield. So, I think that kind of game's more of a blueprint for what we're going to see. It's going to be close, and, both teams are going to be looking for heroes. Absolutely.
I think this has the marks of an all-time physical battle, because when I'm looking at guys like, Matthew Pekka, I mean, you brought up James Neal, but Luke Witkowski, and again, another former Griffin name drop there, he's going to be playing some postseason hockey, but Dakota Joshua, I mean, talk about some big, mean bodies, and Wilkes-Barre's got size of their own to match. And I think for the Pens, they're going to kind of have to kind of weather the storm, because, I mean, the Thunderbirds are going to be living up to their name. They're going to be coming in and banging and crashing on the boards. And if the Pens can wither that forecheck and kind of get those quick zone exits, then I think they'll be able to hang a little better than we might be giving them credit for. And it's going to be tight. And between that and if Tommy Napier can stack up to what Charlie Lindgren's been throwing down already in this game and will be continuing throughout the postseason, whether it ends this series or it continues further. I mean, it's Wilkes-Barre's just got to match that intensity. We kind of know what Springfield has been. I mean, this team is kind of, I don't want to say it's been up and down, but the first month and a half of the season was just driven by Scott Prunovich. And once he got called up to St. Louis, they had to, kind of find their identity a bit, but they certainly didn't falter. And they're right up here at the top of the Atlantic for a reason. So going to be leaning on the vets, going to have a lot of young guys here. I also got Nikita Alexandrov going to be making some noise. It's really intriguing because this Wilkes-Barre team's faced so much adversity, and I don't think they're done this season yet. I really like what Alex Nylander is doing over there for the Pens. I mean, just night and day difference from what he was in Rockford earlier this season.
And that's the one thing that I love about them too is, you mentioned it a little bit earlier, is Tommy Napier. Talk about that kind of story too. You go through, he was probably third or even fourth string goaltender at one point in this season, despite getting some time last year. You go through, you think Philip Lindbergh, Louis Domingue, they're all up at, Lindbergh got hurt after being named Rookie of the Month. That sort of thing would be enough to sink most other teams. But, Napier stepped in and, really jumped into the conversation as a guy that, Pittsburgh should either be interested in signing. I know he's on an AHL deal this year. He's been fantastic, and you wouldn't even think there was goaltending issues based on the win over, Hershey being, their strength and health was certainly in goaltending in spades. It's one of those things where it's a difference maker for sure.
I just keep forgetting that James Neal in the American Hockey League is a thing that's actually happening this postseason. I've forgotten it all season long, but we're going to go ahead and share our predictions. Now, once again, this is a game that is already in progress. Still 1-0, 12:55 left in the second. Game 2 will be Thursday, actually the day that everyone will be listening to this. It'll be tonight at 7:05 p.m. in Springfield. On Sunday, May 15th, will be game 3 in Wilkes-Barre, Scranton at 5:05. And then if needed, games 4 and 5 will be Monday the 16th at 7:05 and Wednesday the 18th at 7:05. So who takes this to go to the Atlantic Finals?
Well, it's a good question at this point. I do think it's a series that has the makings to go the distance easily. There's a close. I don't know if there's a closer series in the AHL maybe this round than this one, honestly, just based on the regular season series. I would say that my edge would go to Springfield in this case, just because I think their veteran experience as well as the heroics of Charlie Lindgren, which to this point in this first game, he's already demonstrated a couple of times here. I think it's going to be enough. And, will it come down to a fifth game in overtime again for Wilkes-Barre pushing it to the limit like this? Probably, maybe. But, I just think that Springfield just got enough of that edge. But I think Wilkes-Barre is, going to give them all they can handle and then some. I mean, it's a coin flip to me.
I wholeheartedly agree with you there. And I'm going back and forth in my head, like, who am I really going to pick in this? And at the end of the day, I think it's going to be a heartbreaker for the Pens. I think it's going to be some kind of overtime greasy goal going in, the T-Birds crashing the net and, some big body like Dakota Joshua just falls on it and it somehow trickles through, One of those greasy playoff goals is going to happen. I mean, I can 100% see the Pens just grinding their way out to an upset. But if you're gonna make me make a call, I gotta go with the T-Birds.
Well, I'm going to take the other side of that coin flip. And I am going to agree that this is going to go the distance, probably overtime, more games than not. But I'm going to take the Pens in 5. All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and move on to the North Division, but we are going to say goodbye to Corey. thank you once again for coming on, sharing all of your Atlantic Division expertise and all of your knowledge about the Pens, the Bears. It's always wonderful to have you on. So thank you once again.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me again. I enjoy our chats here and, making our predictions. I'm sad that I was wrong about the first round with the Bears because I desperately wanted to be right. But, it was close, and that's all I could ask for. And I promise my prediction for Springfield is not by any way influenced by my personal feelings and disappointment about the first round. So
I would understand if it was, but good to know. But thank you once again. All right, now we're going to go ahead and move on to the North Division. First, we're going to look at the number 1 seed Utica Comets. I mean, that's another team we've been talking about, it seems like all season long, for all the right reasons, versus a very, in my mind, kind of surprising number 5 seed Rochester Americans. Now, the Utica Comets, we already talked about how some teams are going to buy into this division semifinals. Utica was that buy from the North Division. And then Rochester getting there by a way of, and I don't know if anybody actually predicted that Rochester would sweep the Belleville Senators, but they swept the Belleville Senators, both in overtime, both by a score of 4-3.
I mean, if there's any wild card in this playoffs, it's got to be Rochester, right? I mean, for all the early season talk to kind of going through the midpoint where you had Jack Quinn called up, you have UPL, I'm not even going to try and pronounce it. He's called up, and this team, for all the goals that they score and all the talent that they have on offense, clawing their way and having a miracle finish at the last day of the season in order to sneak in. Thank you very much, Toronto Marlies. For them to not just, kind of backpedal into the playoffs, but then to take this opening series in 2 flat games. I mean, you don't know what Amerik's team is going to show up, but it's certainly interesting. I mean, when you're talking about intrigue, I don't know if it gets crazier than the Ameriks in the season they've managed to throw at us here.
Well, whenever I'm looking at this series, now, of course, we're going to kind of share our keys to the series, but honestly, they got a little lucky getting into this round. But unfortunately, Jack Quinn, and I mean, well, I guess JJ Peterka did end up showing up in the second match, but so far, they haven't really seen anything out of Jack Quinn, and they need him to show up and show up big time if they're going to advance.
Oh, absolutely. And so on Tuesday, they played their first game, and Utica won by a score of 6-3, which is a very un-Utica-like score. I mean, yes, they have offensive talent, but they're not necessarily going to run teams out. They're more the style team that's gonna choke you to death. For being a Devils affiliate, they're very much about clogging up the neutral zone, not giving you a lot of chances at their goalies, and when you do have shots on, well, those goalies are very capable of stopping the puck. And we talked about it before, how Rochester can't go giving up all these goals, and they got to find a way to limit opportunities. Well, I think this is any indication that they're just not. I mean, we got to, sometimes you just got to call a spade, and Rochester's not going to limit opportunities for anybody. At the same time, they're going to get those on the other end of the ice. So while, maybe Quinn is still kind of finding his footing here, who's really blowing it up is Arttu Ruotsalainen.
Oh, absolutely.
If that's even in the right area code of how to pronounce his last name.
It is.
But, oh, thank God. Anyway, you're talking about 7 points in 3 games, 5 goals. I mean, like I said, call a spade, and the Ameriks are going to ride this guy. They're going to, All right, stop. All right, yeah, enough. Throw the book out of how we play playoff hockey. Danmark's got to go and open this thing wide open and try and blow the roof off every game. That's how it's going to be.
Yeah, they're going to need all of those regular season stars. You know, we always talk about Jack Quinn, of course, Peyton Krebs, JJ Peterka. They need all of them to show up because you've got some guys over on that Utica Comets squad that, you know, had their sights turned to the net. They had the shot count. I mean, Fabian Zetterlund in game 1 had 7 shots, only tallied an assist, but 7 shots. AJ Greer getting 2 goals off of 5 shots. Alexander Holtz not even showing up, but had 5 shots. These guys are coming hard. I'm not seeing a whole heck of a lot of rust on that Utica Comets team, which was a concern, quite frankly. But I think they're just fine. They just need to keep doing what they're doing. But Rochester needs to find a way to get those young guys going.
Again, this is another one I've been going back and forth with. And this time I'm going to roll the dice and go the chaos angle. And I'm going to take Rochester taking us in 5. Oh, yeah. I love this team that's kind of playing with house money at this point. And you got, you know, some kids that are out here to prove themselves. You got a guy like Peyton Krebs, who's kind of the straw that stirs the drink down there for the Amherst. I mean, I think that was a big thing that they were missing down the stretch was, okay, you got Peterka, you got Quinn, but they kind of, you know, we're trying to find a guy in the middle to kind of fit them all with. And, you know, yeah, you got guys like Jankowski, Sean Malone, who could fill in at times, but no one really is dynamic as Peyton Krebs to really fuel the offense, get the fire going. And, you know, yeah, Jack Quinn's kind of been a little quiet this postseason so far. And, you know, luckily the Amherst have been able to survive without it. If he gets going, I think this could be really bad for Utica to try and contain it. A team playing reckless and just having fun. You know, you get a bunch of kids that are just out there having fun, and you know, okay, you know, we're not expected to win, so why not just go and enjoy yourselves, have a time of it. That's a really dangerous team that's as high flying as Rochester is. I can put pucks in the net. Why call a spade a spade. You're not gonna shut it down. So let it ride. I love it.
Well, as much as I love the goaltending on Rochester's side right now, they're riding Aaron Dell. They got Michael Hauser sitting there in backup. There's just been something magical about this Utica team and their rookie phenom goaltenders. I think Rochester can pull it to 4. I don't think it's going to be a sweep, but I think Utica's going to take it. I don't think they're going to just be a one and done team in the playoffs. They have too much riding on this season with the way that they started that I don't think they're going to let it go out that easily and that quickly.
Fair. I mean, I was really bold with that one, I'll admit.
That was very bold, but I think Jeremy would be very proud of you. He won't be happy with me, but hey, you know. So if you want to catch the rest of this series, of course, game 1 already happened. That 6-3 win by Utica. Coming up May 14th, Saturday, Rochester at Utica at 7:00. The next 2 games after that will be in Rochester. Game 3, Sunday the 15th at 5:05. Then, if needed, Game 4, Tuesday, May 14th at 7:05, both in Rochester. And then the series goes back to Utica for Game 5 if needed, Thursday, May 19th at 7:00. Go ahead and switch over to the Central Division, where Andrew's number 1 seeded Chicago Wolves are going to be taking on that 4th seed Rockford Ice Hogs. So, Andrew, am I remembering right whenever you said that this was the matchup that you did not want to see, or was that just a fever dream?
No, this is my nightmare scenario here. I mean, so we got shameless plug. We got the preview being published today on our website, Field Pass Hockey. And there you'll start to understand why. So for, obviously Chicago is kind of dummied everyone in the Central Division, number 1 seed in the league, well known for their offensive exploits and just overall dominant puck possession that's led them to where they are. They did not do good against Rockford this season. Rockford, especially in Chicago, the Ice Hogs had a 5-0-1 record in All-State Arena. They didn't lose in regulation. They won 5 out of the 6 meetings. I mean, it's not a good look. I don't know what it is, but the Wolves, they've outshot the Ice Hogs in every game other than the one blowout 8-0. You got half of a ECHL team out there for Chicago. That was a rough one, but every other game they've outshot the Hogs. But Rockford's just got this. They weather the storm and they wait for you to make that mistake, and they counter well, and they know how to capitalize. And like I said, this is just the nightmare. I mean, Arvid Soderblom is playing at just unreal hockey right now down the stretch, shutting Texas out in the deciding game that had them move on. Oh, I didn't want this. I did not want this.
So, who does Chicago have in net right now? I know that it was a point of concern. Has that situation gotten any better?
Yeah. Alex Lyon was able to come back the last couple games of the season. And with Pyotr Kochekov up in Carolina and Jack LaFontaine serving as the emergency third goalie, they brought Dylan Wells up from the Norfolk Admirals to back up Lyon. And, Wells has played a couple games. I really want to see him kind of served up to the Wolves there, no pun intended. But Lyon wasn't, necessarily any bad against Rockford this year or anything. It was, again, it's almost baffling. You see a team that's as successful as Chicago was, and there's just this one team that's got their number, and here it is. You're facing your demons up right off the bat, and not just right off the bat. They're coming off a really weird scheduling decision by the AHL, which after Rockford ended their series with Texas, they decided to go, okay, and we'll start the series in 6 days. So the other semifinal, Milwaukee and Manitoba, will have played 3 games before we even got to 1.
Because of course.
I would love someone from the league office to explain that one to me. But anyway, so you want to? I mean, we can talk rust for the Wolves, but you almost got to talk about it for the Ice Hogs too, because now you're talking 6 days where, okay, you're feeling good, you're in a rhythm, your goalie's hot, and now he's sitting for almost a week. So you can talk about rust, but I don't think it's going to matter much because both teams are going to be dealing with it to an extent here.
Yeah, I mean, that was just such the way that most of these have been scheduled. I mean, we failed to mention, but like Laval and Syracuse, that is a North Divisional semifinals that is only played 2 games so far. Each team has won 1 in this best of 5, but that's been going on. We covered that series in our last episode that we released last Thursday. So if you need a preview on that series, go listen to that. We're not going to go over it twice because we'll just say probably the exact same things. But the scheduling is just weird. It's not doing people a whole heck of a lot of favors. I mean, the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins are getting a 1-day break in between series. Then you get this one that's just going crazy. But I think, honestly, Chicago is going to be looking towards the same line that they've been looking for all season. Andrew Podorowski, CJ Smith, and Stefan Nason. That will be the key, especially whenever goaltending is being questioned and a little Not ideal, needless to say. That's going to be where they need to shine. Captain's got to step up, try to get the rest of his guys going. I mean, Andrew Podorowski's got 13 points in 12 games against Rockford. Stephon Nason, 10 and 12. CJ Smith, 9 and 9. I mean, those are your guys right there.
Big dogs gotta eat.
Yeah, and they just need to pray that they can solve this Rockford team. I'm not sure how I feel about who's going to win because, yeah, Rockford, like you said, this is total nightmare scenario for the Wolves. But I have a feeling that they probably knew that this was going to happen and have probably been studying the tapes, running drills specifically for them, or at least we can hope. But
yeah, I mean, you can. Coach Ryan Warsofsky is going to have this team prepped and ready to go at day one. It doesn't matter that they've had nearly 2 weeks off. It doesn't matter who they're going to play. I mean, this team is focused. They're determined. They're talented, and you can't have the season that they had and be looking underneath your bed for a team that finished 4th in division. I mean, okay, so they had your number a couple times. Well, a lot of those games went to shootouts, which are no longer a factor in this time of the year. And the biggest thing for them is to stick to your game plan, because I didn't realize that the opening game of the season would be kind of a microcosm for the regular season series between these two teams. But Chicago thoroughly dominated Rockford for a stretch of that game. And I feel like they got away from their game plan. They were up 1-0 or 2-0 and were getting shots. They were getting chances, but they weren't going in the net. And they, started gripping their sticks a little tighter. They started making some questionable head-scratching pinches along the boards that led to odd man rushes going the other way. And then Rockford did what they do, which is they capitalize on those mental mistakes. So Chicago's just got to do what they do, which is just hold the puck in the offensive zone all game long. And they got to just pump rubber on that. And when it's not going in, you do it some more. And when it's not going in, you do it some more. And again, and again, and again, you bang your head against the wall until the puck goes in the net. I mean, that's just what this team's done all season long. It's why they've scored the most goals in the league. I mean, we'll talk about goals per game later, but in actual pucks that have gone in, the Wolves have led the league. So I'm going with that stat because it fits my narrative. And it's right. You can't go the season that they've had and drop it. So if we're gonna make predictions, I think Rockford's gonna take one. I'll give them one, but I think the Wolves are going to come out and they're going to put those demons to bed. And they're going to say, you might have had our number, but, I mean, that 8-4-0-1 record that Rockford had, it's 0-0 now. It's a new season. It's a new Wolves team. I mean, you're talking about coming at you down the middle of the lineup. Your number one center, Andrew Podorowski. Your number two center, Jack Drury. And then someone they haven't had all season long against Rockford, which changes the whole dynamic of the team, and Vasily Ponomarev, who's just been lights out since the handful of games that he has had to play with the Wolves. He's a Jack Drury clone. When having one of those guys was a nightmare enough for most teams, having two of them, the Ice Hogs got to be feeling confident, got to be feeling themselves with the regular season they had against the Wolves, but I don't see that carrying over here. It's a new game.
Just on the physical side, I'm excited for a 5-game series where Isaac Phillips and Andre Altabamarkian are going to go up against Stephon Nason, Spencer Smallman, Jalen Chatfield. I'm so excited for this. But I think the way this is going to go in my head is Rockford's going to take game 1. That's going to thoroughly tick off this Wolves team, and then they're just going to sweep the back of it. So
we're in agreement there.
Yeah. It's
Poor game.
that's just the way it's been running in my head, and yeah, so I'm just going to stick with that. So Chicago and Rockford, game 1, Thursday, May 12th in Chicago, 7:00. Saturday, May 14th, also in Chicago at 7. Game 3 is going to move to Rockford on Sunday, May 15th at 4. And then if needed, game 4 will be Tuesday, May 17th at 7:00. And then for game 5, if necessary, back to Chicago, May 19th at 7:00. But those really aren't road games. If you think about it for either squad, I would almost love to drive up to the Chicagoland area and attend one of these games, because those atmospheres, those buildings are going to be nuts.
So the last regular season game between these two, which was the last game of the season, the Wolves Booster Club drove up to Rockford and they took over the ride-in Zamboni during the intermission. Yeah, so all the Rockford fans got to see a whole bunch of Chicago Wolves fans sitting there smiling, waving at the crowd, and it was all a bit of fun. I believe the proceeds for their donations to have to purchase those seats during intermission went to donate to some local charities in the Rockford area. So some good actually did come out of this rivalry, but we can put all of that feel good stuff to bed now, because this is where the real season starts.
All right, we have one more Central Division semifinal matchup. Andrew kind of touched on it a little bit. Number 2, Manitoba going against number 3, Milwaukee. This is another one of those really weird schedules where this got started the exact same time as the play-in round back, the division quarterfinals, I guess, are what they're officially called. But that series is still ongoing. So Milwaukee has a 2-0 series advantage. As we're recording this on Wednesday night, they are also up tonight by a score of 2-0. So that number 2 seems to be a good lucky number for Milwaukee. So by the time you all are hearing this series might be decided, and then they will be waiting quite a bit, possibly, for a winner of that Rockford-Chicago series, who will play the winner of Milwaukee and Manitoba. All right, staying obviously in the Western Conference, we're now going to look at the Pacific Division semifinals, where the number 1 Stockton Heat will take on the 4th seed Bakersfield Condors. Now, Stockton, again, this is another team that are getting in by way of a bye. They were the only team in the Pacific Division to get that bye into the division semifinals, just based off of their play and their seeding. But Bakersfield getting in after a 2-game sweep against the Abbotsford Canucks in their first round.
I don't even know how to get into this one, because we just spent the whole opening of the show pumping up the tires of the Stockton Heat. And so what, now am I supposed to go on here and tell you that Bakersfield's got a chance? Mathematically, yes, they have a chance. But they're already up 1-0 in a resounding win. I know it was only 3-1, but Stockton can put the clamps down in this playoff setting, and it's going to be so tough to break that wall and to get anything going. And once you do break that wall, you just have the goalie of the year and Dustin Wolf sitting behind them. So what's Bakersfield really got to do in order to kind of come away with 3 and 4 on the back end here in order to pull off the upset?
Well, that's a very good question, because I don't know how this happens, because back in the first round, both of their wins were by 1 goal. Game 1 was in overtime, 2-1. Game 3 was in regulation, but 3-2. It's not that the Condors are bad. I mean, they made it into the playoffs, so good for them. But I'm looking down this, and honestly, their biggest hopes are going to come Cooper Marody and Brad Malone. They were both either at a point per game or more than a point per game against Stockton in the regular season. Those are going to be the guys that they are really needing to rely on. I mean, goaltending, I don't even know how that's going to work out for them because, again, you have Dustin Wolf sitting right there. And we heard at the beginning of the show just how amazing his season was. But then you look in Stockton, you got your Matthew Phillips, Jacob Pelletier. I mean, there's so many good players, and I just don't know if Bakersfield even has any chance of even taking a game. I mean, this might be one of the more lopsided series that we're going to see this postseason, especially in this round.
Only because I have the powers of foresight, and I'm telling you that Milwaukee's going to be sweeping Manitoba. But I think Bakersfield's best chance is going to be in that as well. I mean, Stuart Skinner's a legit NHL prospect in goal, and
true.
They're going to have to. The Condors are going to have to find a way to give him some help and get in the face of Dustin Wolf. I'm not saying, do anything greasy or anything, but take away his eyes and shoot low, shoot for chaos, for deflection off his stick or a leg or something. I mean, you got to find. The playoffs are all about finding a way, and the Condors. I know it's kind of a cliche statement, but you got to find a way. You got to dial into where you can catch Stockton slipping. It's easier said than done, obviously, but you're here and you battled through a really tough Pacific Division. You denied Stockton that number 1 seed in the last game of the season, and they're probably pretty upset about that, which explains game 1. But even if you feel overmatched, I mean, you're not. It's a tough division, but you guys deserve to be here. So show up, make it a series. If it doesn't go your way, it is what it is. But they're capable. I don't know how many cliches I can pile in on the Condors in order to get them pumped up without pulling up the Herb Brooks speech from Miracle.
Right. I mean, I guess I would be remiss if I didn't also mention Seth Griffith and Adam Cracknell as potential keys to this series. I mean, Seth Griffith, 80 points on the season. Yeah, he might not have the tallies against Stockton, but he surely tallied against everybody else. So I would feel bad if I did not mention them, but that Stockton squad, it's just, oh my gosh. I think this goes in 3 easy. Stockton is going to take it.
I'll take Olympian Adam Cracknell to give me an overtime goal in 1, but I'm going to take Stockton for the other 3. So give me Heat in 4.
All right. So in this series, if you want to catch the rest of it, of course, like we said, game 1 took place back on Tuesday. Stockton winning that one 3-1. And then game 2 is actually in progress right now. It started and I guess a quick reminder that all of these times are local times that we've been sharing on this podcast. So do the conversions as you will. But right now, Stockton and Bakersfield are playing in Stockton, or will be playing in Stockton at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time tonight. So that'll be dropping here pretty soon. So we'll know the result for that by the time this episode drops. Game 3 will be on Friday the 13th. How ominous.
That's spooky.
At 7 o'clock when the series moves to Bakersfield, and then games 4 and 5 will, if needed, Sunday, May 15th at 5 o'clock in Bakersfield, then goes back to Stockton for game 5 on May 17th. That's next Tuesday at 6:30 p.m. Stockton likes those 6:30 starts, apparently. So, all right, we have one more Pacific Division semifinal matchup to look at. And that is going to be against the 2nd seed Ontario Reign versus the 3rd seed Colorado Eagles. Every time I say Eagles and we're talking about playoff hockey here, I always just have to flash back to the beginning of the season when we were taking bets, who's going to be the first one out of them, Lehigh Valley, and Bakersfield to actually win a game, and
one
here
of
they
these
are.
things is not like the other.
Well, 2 of those things are not like the other. Well, I guess one of them being Lehigh Valley. You can take it either way you want.
Oh, poor Lehigh Valley. We love you, but you did make me look stupid at the beginning of the year.
We were all there in the same boat. It's
yeah.
okay.
I don't know about you, but I think this is the series to watch for me. I mean, imagine going through 5 games of this and then you're probably being rewarded with Stockton afterwards. I mean, no rest for the wicked in the Pacific Division, and that's just how we want to see it. But I mean, you got on one end, you have your TJ Tynan, Marty Ferg, high-powered offense, leading in goals per game over here, and Ontario, sleek-looking jerseys. I mean, what can you hate? And then over on the other side, you got 3 more All-Stars with Jordan Gross we talked about, but Kiefer Sherwood, Dylan Sakura. You got the depth pieces to support them, and Mikhail Maltsev, Martin Kaut. I mean, just goals for days coming on here, and I love it. These are 2 teams that could easily lead a division had they not been stuck over here in the Pacific behind Stockton or maybe in the Central in Chicago. But I mean, you put them out east, and I think either one is just running roughshod over whatever division you decide to throw them in. So when you got all these kinds of offense here, I mean, when you're talking about a key to a series, it's going to be who stops the puck. And I know it's probably sounds pretty bad, but I can't even tell you who, when we talk on, it's probably because we talk offense all about Ontario, but I can't even really tell you who took the quality or the quantity of starts for the Reign over there. Whereas, you go to the Eagles and I'm like, oh, it's Justus Annunen, who's had a fantastic season of his own right over there. So I guess by that metric, I'm leaning to the Eagles, but man, you really want me to count TJ Tynan out just like that? I don't know. This is a tough one. This is really tough.
This is a very, very tough series. I mean, for all the reasons that you mentioned. I mean, Colorado has some firepower, a lot of youthful energy, and again, Dylan Sakura, former Rockford Ice Hog, Kiefer Sherwood, always got to shout him out. Jean-Luc Foudy, we didn't talk about him at all. Stefan Matteau is another one that he can make plays happen with the best of them. But he's also a very physical player without getting his team into too many uncomfortable, shorthanded situations. But I love how it's all kind of spread out on that Colorado Eagles team. Whereas on Ontario, yes, they do have, some amazing players. But, of course, mainly, like you said, TJ Tynan, you got your Marty Ferg. Frederick Allard has done well against Colorado all season. But I just go back to a few weeks ago when one of their goaltenders, David Rennick, I believe it was, where he got the only, or at that point it was the first shutout by Ontario for the entire season. And that was maybe not even a month ago. Maybe it has been a month. But still, that would have been March or April that
first
happened.
And only shutout for Ontario this season.
There we go. I I'm personally leaning Colorado in this series. Like most other series, this is going to go the distance, but I'm leaning more to Colorado on this one. I watched quite a few of their opening round games against Henderson, and well, I guess
They look good.
Yeah,
They look good.
Yeah, I mean, I watched both of those games. Both games winning 5-2. They were just so crisp, so well versed. Like they read the plays perfectly. They did everything they need to, and I think they're getting hot at the precise right time. Colorado
And
could have the upset.
live update on their first shot of the game, Keaton Middleton scores to give the Eagles a 1-0 lead over the Ontario Reign. So
there we go.
Not that was ever going to influence my decision, but I mean, I'm right there with you. I covered this Eagles team in their opening round series against Henderson team, really revitalized with Coach Viviero's coming back, and I don't want to say it didn't matter. I mean, it obviously mattered. The emotions are getting high in a game like that, but you just kind of said it yourself. Well-oiled machine over there in Colorado, and I think again, if you're going to force me to make a decision, it's going to come down to the guy who's going to stop the pucks. And all credit to, and it's going to might be the first time he's mentioned on this pod all season, Matthew Villalta. It's gonna come up between him and Ananen to make those big stops. I gotta go with Ananen. He looked good against Henderson. He didn't get rattled by any of their goals. I mean, there's a couple that were just kind of out of his hands, or he came off a turnover or just defensive breakdown. But when he's called to task, he gets it done. And he's not called to task often because this team it mirrors Chicago a lot. Very high flying, and they love to hold the puck. And the best way to keep the chances away for Tynan and Ferk is to hold the puck in their end. If you're 200 feet from your own net, they're not too dangerous on your net. So again, if you're going to make me make a decision, maybe it's recency bias, but I got to go with the Eagles.
Yeah, what really, I guess the catalyst for my concern about this Ontario team is that game 2 against San Diego, where they only managed to win 3-2 in overtime against the Gulls.
Second shot on that, 2-0 Colorado.
Oh my goodness. Who was it this time?
It hasn't updated yet, but I just saw the picture pop up.
Heck. Oh, all right. Yeah. It's now saying 3-0 on my
3
website.
shots.
Keaton Middleton with his second of the night. 2 shorthanded shots.
Ryan,
and just a little over a minute. And wouldn't you know it?
Wagner with the shorty, I believe. No, he got it. It's his second shorty. Technically, the first one was an empty netter. Often Andreas Englund hit that I thought was going to be suspension worthy, but I guess is he in for tonight? I know we're getting a little off track here, but this is just juicy. He is in tonight. I thought he was going to be sitting for sure, but hey, wow, 3 shots, 3 goals for the Eagles. That's incredible.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I was just talking about how Stefan Matteau normally does not get his team into uncomfortable situations. Well, those shorthanded tallies came with Stefan Matteau in the box. So,
well, I mean, clearly the team isn't uncomfortable because holy jumping.
Wow. Yeah. So 217 Keaton Middleton, 419 Ryan Wagner on a shorty, and then at 532 Keaton Middleton shorthanded. I've got to look. Keaton
Middleton has 3 points in the first 5.5 minutes of the series. That's absurd.
And just for a little bit of perspective, he's only faced the Reign one time. He had 0 goals 0 assists, 0 penalty minutes, and was a 0 plus minus. And now here he is.
This is what the playoffs is all about. This is where heroes are born. The guys, the most unlikely heroes coming up. And, we'll talk about I just rattled off all those all-stars, but who pegged Keaton Middleton as the hero of the series? And, this is like pulling from my own personal experience, with the classic Penguins Red Wings Stanley Cup final. Who picked Max Talbot to be the hero in that one? I certainly didn't. I was not the biggest fan of him the next day. I can tell you that much. But these are your guys that are going to fill your lineup out, and that your big dogs are going to be your big dogs. But you need contributions from all up and down your lineup in order to succeed. And it is now 3-1. That I'm going to get out of the power play goal, but. Looks like Matthew Valta's night is done. We got David Rannick in. And,
today I learned that our winner so far of this game, or, to this second, I learned that Keaton Middleton is a defenseman. So, hey, there you go. Talk about depth scoring. But yeah, 3-1. But I guess we can go ahead and kind of talk our predictions. This one's because, of course, you cannot count out Ferk, Tynan, those all-stars, those amazing veterans that, boy, do they know how to get a game going and crawl back into a series. But I think Colorado, and I think we kind of teed this up, so it's not like it's a little bit of bias off of the score that we're seeing right now, but I think it's going to go the distance. But Colorado is going to emerge on top to take on Stockton in the division finals.
Retweet.
Perfect. Well, if you want to check out more of this series, Lord knows I'm going to. As soon as we get off of here, I'm going to be definitely tuning in on this one. But of course, game 1 on May 11th in progress with the Colorado lead. Game 2 also in Colorado, Friday the 13th at, every time I see this start time, I think of our colleague in Zach Power, 7:05, his favorite time. Game 3, the series moves to Ontario for Sunday, May 15th at 8 o'clock. And then if needed, games 4 and 5 will also be in Ontario on Tuesday, May 17th at 7, Wednesday, May 18th at 7. Once again, all times are local. So, Andrew, I just have a question. We didn't quite plan for this, but what has been your surprise of the playoffs so far?
It's got to be Rochester, right? I mean, this team that I don't know about you guys. I had them pegged for dead a month ago, and all that goal scoring, but couldn't stop I'm trying to think of an appropriate metaphor, but I'm just going to say couldn't stop a nosebleed because that one's safe. And here they are. And yeah, a bit of a rough first game, but that's Utica. That's the game that they bring. I still think that, shocking. Yeah. I mean, yeah, considering where they were a month ago, but, and also, if I would have told you that Milwaukee would be up 2-0 and Connor Ingram played 0 minutes, would you believe me?
No.
It's because they are. And we had Pat Williams come on a couple weeks ago and talk him up, and then we saw Connor Ingram, make the guy look as every bit as smart as he absolutely is over there and nearly pulling out a singular win from the Colorado Avalanche. But the ads, they don't miss a beat. They put Devin Cooley in that, and it's just business as usual for them.
Devin Cooley has been unreal this series so far. It's just unreal.
And I see that, despite being in an early hole, the Moose have tied it up at 2-2. So that's one to keep your eye on for sure.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see Declan Chisholm kind of contributing on that second goal. He's been another player that's just been doing really well for that Manitoba Moose team. I mean, I got a chance to watch a little bit of that, and he's one of the players that really stood out. Him, Morgan Barron. Of course, I always got, my eyes on Evan Poli. He's feisty, but he can work the edges whenever he needs to, and I just enjoy his style of play. So, but yeah, if you want more on this series, check last week's episode. We got the full rundown for you. But I mean, honestly, I gotta agree with you, Andrew. Rochester, especially Arttu Ruotsalainen, has been such a key piece of that team. I mean, 5 goals so far this postseason. I forgot he got 2 in game 1 against Utica, but he has been such a revelation so far, and they're going to be looking to him. So, all right, any other final thoughts before we wrap this one up?
Go Wolves.
Fair enough. That was the most unsure, questioning go Wolves I think I've ever heard in my life, but we'll run with it. And that's going to be it for the Holy Grail this week. If you like us, please subscribe, like, share, rate this podcast, tell all your friends. And if you want to share your takes on the series or follow some of our live coverage, be sure to give us all a follow on Twitter. You can find me at FPH Monsters.
And you can find me at FPH Griffins, or if you prefer playoff coverage, you can find me at FPH Wolves.
And then be sure to check out all of our written work at fieldpasshockey.com. We're going to try to get as much playoff content on this site for you as possible. We've got full written previews, which again, Andrew and his cohort and John Fromey actually have a great preview coming out on the Chicago Rockford series here on Thursday morning. So be sure to check that out. But if you want more podcast content, we've got that too on the Field Pass Hockey Network. Inside the SPHL with James Hayes. We got Syracuse Speaks with Alexandra Ackerman, giving you everything you know about that Syracuse Crunch squad. Of course, Monsters Musings. We're moving into off-season mode there, unfortunately, with Jacob Forrester and myself, but we got a nice season review the last 2 episodes. And for the ECHL, you got the 3 Periods podcast. And if you want to listen to some Charlotte Checkers hockey, if you can take us on the road with you with the Field Pass Hockey app, where we're streaming all of the Charlotte Checkers games. So that's it. On behalf of all of us here at the Holy Grail, we hope you have an amazing week. Enjoy that playoff content, and we'll see you next Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.
This has been the Holy Grail Podcast. Have a question or topic suggestion? Hit us up on Twitter or drop us an email. For the latest news across the American Hockey League and the rest of minor league hockey, download the Field Pass Hockey app, now available in the Apple and Android app stores.